Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. All right, so get this. Kamala Harris has finally agreed to an interview. It's going to be on CNN. I don't know how long it's going to be, but it's going to be her not by herself. She's going to have her security blanket there, Tim Walz. Tampon Tim is why? I don't know. She said she's like, well, this is my first media appearance, and I want to introduce the country to my... We want to hear from you. Anyway, so this is going to be taped tomorrow and then played tomorrow night. Why does it have to be taped? There's only one answer to that. In case they need to request something be edited. Or at least that's what I think. Let's ask my first guest, Connor Vassal's back on. Connor, why do you think that they want to tape this and not... Why can't they just do it live, Connor? Sorry about that. Why can't they just do it live, Connor? Why do they have to tape it?
I don't know. I think they really are just trying to get her good side. I mean, can we blame them? I mean, we all want to look good on TV, right?
See, you could say that, but then you can also say Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and every other candidate that was running in the primary cycle was dying to get any kind of media attention to be on CNN for any, whether it was live, whether it was taped, whether it was with a partner, whether it was alone. I mean, RFK Jr. was just screaming at the top of his lungs trying to get on CNN, and he didn't care the circumstances.
That's true. I mean, right now, as we've mentioned many times ago, right, this is all just a move for PR, right? They're trying to get as much exposure as they can. And, you know, Kamala Harris knows that this is her chance through CNN in order to, you know, get her face out there. Now, yes, it's going to be edited. We all know that. They're not going to show every single little second of, you know, any laughter or stuttering. But, hey, that's the name of the game we're playing here.
Okay, so here's the next game I want to play with you, Connor. It's something I was thinking of asking the listeners, and I kind of by proxy am. What questions should Kamala be asked? I would like to start with, what is a woman? Do you think she could answer what is a woman?
I think she might try to obfuscate that. It seems to be out of her expertise. You know, we've seen too many instances of political figures and other individuals not being able to answer that question. But besides that, I think they should really definitely hone in on policy and see exactly what she's running for and actually find out what that is, because we have no clue as of right now. Okay, what causes monetary inflation? You think she would do good with that question? I know she would think so. What would you have her be asked? If we sat her down in front of you and Connor got the interview, what would you ask? Oh, well, that would be a wonderful opportunity, sir. And what I would first primarily ask her is, what are you running on? What will you do if you were elected president that is any different than what you are doing right now under the Biden-Harris administration? Because we all know she's been in office since day one with Biden. I mean, they had all this time, but now she needs to get elected to get all these stuff done. That doesn't make any sense. So I would really like to clarify that first and foremost. Yeah, I see. I would caution against asking the vague stuff because she can kind of Kamala word salad around that. I would like to ask, like, have you ever had an abortion? Well, how come that never gets asked? It's so important. It's a right, and it should be celebrated, and we can put it on T-shirts, and we can have rallies for it, and we can have a mobile abortion van show up at the DNC. That shouldn't be an offensive question to answer. I mean, if you want to get specific, I mean, I would harken back to that. I don't know if it was CBS or NBC, but she had an interview, and basically they questioned her performance as the border czar. And she basically said, oh, well, you know, we haven't been to Europe. And I haven't been to the southern border. What does it matter? So, you know, deflection is key. But you're definitely right. The more specific the questions are, the better it will be in terms of figuring out what the heck is actually going on. Yeah, I really have a feeling we're not going to learn a whole lot about her. She's going to get a chance to answer some vague questions and have some nice flowery answers. Is she getting the questions beforehand? That's always a possibility, and considering how it's not going to be a live recording, it's not going to be a live stream, right, of the interview. I mean, anything can happen. We all know that when it comes to these pre-recorded interviews, they're going to be most likely doctored. So the only thing we can ultimately look forward to is an actual live debate between the candidates at this point. Yeah, and if this interview is as disappointing as I expect it to be, that's going to be the American people's only real chance to have some of the stuff exposed that Kamala doesn't want them to see. Definitely. I mean, knowing her track record, talking with the public, she could even make a pre-recorded interview not work out in her favor. I mean, we're going to actually see news correspondents analyze her behavior, analyze her responses and her reactions to see if she's actually a fit for the job. And this may be one of the few opportunities we get to see that ourselves.
Well, and I don't want to give the media credit, but they will cover for their candidates for a very long time before they get upset about, hey, man, why won't you give us any interviews? They want to get the interviews. They want to interview the presidential candidate. That looks good on them. And so they'll fudge the facts. They'll ignore important stories. They'll twist the truth. But if you don't give them interviews, after a while, it's hurting their job. They do have a breaking point.
Of course. I mean, at the end of the day, it's quid pro quo, right? They want what they want, and the candidates or whomever they want exposure, right? So at the end of the day, it's going to benefit either party, but this one's going to be very interesting because she hasn't been seen in public or being asked any questions in quite a while, I believe.
Well, that's another thing I like to point out is when they say, well, Kamala hasn't sat down with the media in the last 36 days since Biden has stepped down. Bro, how long has it been since before that? Has she ever really gone through her paces and been vetted? The last time she made herself available to the media that I remember was when she was running in the primaries in 2019.
She has a busy schedule. What can you say?
You know what? That was literally what was said yesterday. I had that audio and I cut it. I decided not to put it on the roster today because I have so much. But yeah, she's so busy. She's so busy. Well, I pray you can't expect a presidential candidate to make time for the media in the middle of the campaign season, Connor. That's like so the opposite of reality.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm still green behind the ears. I'm learning. Don't worry.
Right. Yeah, we have someone running for president, doesn't have time to talk to the media. Connor, thank you very much for your time. How do they find you outside of the James Show?
You can find me on Twitter at Connor_Vasile, V as in Victor, ASILE, and also my books on Amazon, The State Knows Best.
All right. Thank you very much, Connor Vasile on the James Show again. All right. Now I'm asking you, what questions do you want Kamala to be asked in the CNN interview tomorrow? You'll hear mine coming up next on the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Some of you have figured out my email address is james@wbap.com. And some of you like to drink on what was yesterday, Tuesday? I got a couple of drunken tirades yesterday. They come in waves. I never get like one at a time. But once the guy gets drunk and sends me a message, and then you can watch the time steps. 13 minutes later, I get another message. Half of it's in all caps. 20 minutes later, I get another message. Now the whole thing's in all caps, and he blew up the font. Like you can tell he's progressively getting drunker and drunker. And then this morning, I get the email apology. Dude, it's okay. Dude, you can get drunk and email a talk show host on the radio. Do you know how like sketchy and scandalous radio people are? You think I care that you drink? Oh my goodness. Garrett has a needle sticking out of his neck right now. I exaggerate. I'm kidding. All right, listen. If you've never called the show before, this is a good chance to get in on it. 800-288-9227. Because the question I'm asking is, what question should be asked of Kamala and I guess Tim Walz? I don't know why he's even there. I don't care. We don't need to talk to him. I want to see what this lady stands for. She's having a sit-down interview with CNN tomorrow. It's going to be taped tomorrow during the day. They're going to play it tomorrow night on a primetime special, which sounds like so nice. Oh, we're giving you the best time slot of the day. No, primetime is one of the weaker spots for a news channel. In primetime, you're probably watching whatever you're in the middle of binging on Netflix, or you're probably watching maybe a sporting event, or you actually have some sort of activity with the kids in the afternoon, in the evenings like that. Maybe you're doing something yourself. But primetime for networks is huge because the viewership goes up. But that's not the case. This isn't like we're going to put it out there where as many people can see it as possible. So I want you to fill in some of these gaps here. I'm making another list. What question do you think would be important to be asked at tomorrow's interview? Now, I like the obvious one. What is a woman? By the way, 800-288-9227. I love what is a woman. 10 years ago, it wouldn't have mattered. In fact, all of human history until about 5 months ago, it really wasn't that questionable. But I never thought it would be questionable until Ketanji, what was her name? Affirmative Action Jackson, the Supreme Court nominee, was going through the nominee process, the confirmation process, to be on the Supreme Court, asked what is a woman, and said, I don't know, I'm not a biologist. Wow, really? So you don't even have to know boys have a penis, girls have a vagina. Like one of the most basic, fundamental human observances through all of human history that no one had ever questioned before. You don't even have to go on the record for that. Still got the job, by the way. I would like to see what Kamala says to that. What would she say to that? What is a woman? If you want to get a little more serious, fine. Ask her about policy. What causes monetary inflation? And I use the word monetary inflation because I don't want to talk about inflation like blowing up a car tire or a birthday balloon or a hot air balloon or that big Pikachu that's going to be in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade. You know what I'm talking about. Monetary inflation. What causes prices to go up? And not on one object, on all objects at the same time. My question that I would like to ask even Trump, what's John 3:16? You think Kamala Harris knows John 3:16? You think Kamala Harris, who probably went to church sparingly to be generous, maybe none over the majority of her lifetime, you think she knows that? You think Kamala's been baptized? Have you been baptized? Has she ever been asked that? Do you even know? Do you even know what religion she is? Her mom is Hindu. She was raised by her mom. She lived with her parents, split up when she was young. She was raised by her mom and her dad wasn't there for a big chunk of it. She was in another country and her dad was still here in America. We don't even know what religion she is. You understand that? You don't know what church she goes to. You don't know if she's been baptized. You don't know if she's Catholic, if she's Protestant, if she's a Baptist, if she's a Methodist. She could be a Jedi. We don't know. Look at this. Look at how little we know about someone who has got a 50-50 shot of being the most powerful person on planet Earth in 5 months. Isn't that a little insane? I think the more insane part is like half the country's okay with it. Half the country's like, I don't know her. I don't know anything about her. I don't know where she stands on any of the issues. As long as she's not one of those evil conservatives, as long as she's not team red, as long as she's not, and it's not just Trump. This is the same thing they did for Romney or McCain or George W. Bush. They just demonize you and they whittle down. They sharpen the hatred for Team Red so bad that it doesn't matter. You can put up someone who hasn't answered any questions, who doesn't do press conferences, who has no real voting record, whose parents are, the only thing we know about them economically is they're both Marxist. That would be a great question to ask her too. What kind of economist are you? I could say, look, I'm an Austrian economist. Mick Jagger said in an interview with Wayne's World that he's a Keynesian economist. We know Kamala's dad is a Marxist, but what's Kamala? Do we even know? Hell, half the country wouldn't even know it, even if she did answer it. You think half the country knows what an Austrian economist is or a Keynesian economist is? You do, because you listen to talk radio. You don't understand. You are far more informed than about 80% of the population. And we know that just by the fact that you're listening to this station right now. You're making some sort of attempt to keep up with current events and to inform yourself instead of listening to Laffy Taffy or Morgan Wallen for the 1,000th time. Not that music's bad. I would love someone to just ever have like a balanced media for 5 seconds, because they never get asked these things. They never get asked like, you say fair share. What's fair share? 50%? 70%? What's the number? What is fair share even? You can keep saying fair share. I just get the impression it's more, but not from me, just from people who are richer than me. Okay. Well, can we get some clarification on that? 800-288-9227. Let's ask Bill in Forney. You're on WBAP. What question would you ask?
Hi, good afternoon, James. Yeah, the question I would ask is, the Trump 2017 tax cuts are due to expire next year, and unless they extend them, we'll get the taxes that we were paying before that automatically. If Congress and the House and Senate passed the bill and presented it to you to extend the tax cuts from 2017, would you sign it?
See, that's great. That is a great question. That is not like a sneaky question like I was trying to ask, have you ever had an abortion or something like that? That's a legit question, something that's going to affect all of us at the end of next year. So in just 15 months? Great question, Bill. I'll add that to the list. Do you have any questions you would like Kamala to be asked in tomorrow's CNN interview? 800-288-9227. This is The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. All right, the premise here is you work at CNN and they just gave you a call. You got a text message, you look at your phone and you're like, hey, you know that Kamala Harris-Tim Walz debate that we're going to record tomorrow? You're going to get to be the one that asks the questions. What would you ask? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227 if you would like to jump in on this topic. Look, I would like to ask basically any candidate until it gets old and they know I'm going to ask it. What's John 3:16? I would be really interested to know if any of these people can recite it. You think Tim Walz knows John 3:16? I mean, maybe. He probably at least grew up going to church, if not knowing people that went to church. You think Kamala Harris knows John 3:16? Trump might not know. He's not known for going to church. He hadn't been a strong, outspoken Christian. He might not. That would change the election, I think. But then the most important issue that's affecting all of us, you just paid $14 for lunch today. Your rent or mortgage, whichever one you're paying, has gone up about 30% over the last 5 years. Your grocery bills have gone up about 30% over the last 5 years. What would you do about inflation? And the real question is, how would you balance the budget? Because we all know that's where the primary driver of inflation starts. 800-288-9227. Let's ask Paul in McKinney. You're on WBAP. What would you ask, Paul?
I'd ask her, what did Karl Marx have wrong in his philosophies?
Right. And I love that question because her dad's literally a Marxist professor, and she hasn't said anything out of bounds of Marxism thus far. She talked about price control. She talked about wealth redistribution. She talked about nationalizing major industries. So that solid point, Paul. What do you think her answer would be?
I don't know. But she would go against everything she used to be because she's got to move to the center. She's trying with the whole build the wall thing now. So I don't know, but it'd be interesting to see what she'd come back with.
Yeah. Great question, Paul. That's a good one. And I wish CNN would ask. There's 0% chance she'll be asked that, but I wish she would. Joe in Richardson, you're next up on WBAP. What would you ask?
Hey, I would ask her if she has any regret for holding prisoners past the release date for free slave labor for the state of California. And then part two of that question would be to explain your answer.
Yeah, so I've heard that. I don't know if it's true. It sounds too awful to be true. And it doesn't sound like something a California liberal would want to do, like a Marxist would want to do. They love letting people out of jail as fast as they can. They love excusing crimes. They'll let you doo-doo in the street. They'll let you just boot black tar heroin under a bridge. They'll even give you free needles. So I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just skeptical of that one because it's so awful and it so contradicts the rest of the lefty ethos.
They do like free labor.
Good point. Solid point. Socialists love free labor, boy. Thank you, sir. Love it. Libby in Fort Worth, you're on the James Show. What would you ask?
Well, mine's more of a statement as to the health care in the elders, is that no one has recognized that during COVID, nurses left the hospital and went into the elder care facilities. And at the point, I taught nursing at that time, clinicals. At the point that we went back, there was not one open position to hire in the nursing home and skilled nursing that we were in. Biden then made it mandatory that everyone taking care of elders had to have the COVID shot. Those nurses were there because they wouldn't take it in the hospital, and in 48 hours, they lost half their staffing at the facility where I was teaching.
What?
So they created this problem when it was the best staffed elder care I've ever seen in 40 years of nursing.
Well, look, your point is correct. How would you phrase that into a succinct question that can be asked in a CNN interview?
I guess to state, when everything was well staffed, why was it mandatory to decrease the staffing and start poor care in the nursing homes? Or do you feel a responsibility towards that, maybe? Because
yeah.
I would agree. It's the worst.
We need to work on that because you're making a good point. I just don't know how you could word it in such a way that she can't vague dance her way out of it.
Yeah. If somebody else can help me out with the wording, that's great. But the situation is, it was the best staffed elder care I have ever seen in 40 years of nursing, and it was destroyed by mandating a COVID vaccine for every worker in the elder facility. And of mention, most of those folks, I had seen them prior to COVID, and then we weren't allowed in for about a year. And most of those folks were still alive, 105, 108, 98. They took good care of their patients without their staff having COVID vaccines.
Are you the same Libby that's leaving Facebook messages over here, or a different Libby?
No, I'm not leaving Facebook messages.
All right. Well, that's kind of a rare name. I was wondering if it was the same person. Yeah. Thank you very much.
No, I'm driving.
All right. Very good. Very good. I like your question. Thank you for calling. This is Ray in Grand Prairie. You're on WBAP. What question would you ask, Ray?
Well, when the United States was first formed, George Washington dedicated our country to God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's God, the Christian God. And Kamala Harris was raised by a Hindu mother, and she strongly supports the Arab attacks against Israel. So my questions would be, if she's elected president, will she swear allegiance to the United States using a Christian Bible? Will she say, "So help me God"? Will she pledge allegiance using the Muslim Quran or maybe the Buddhist Tripitaka?
I don't think any of those. She's her mom was Hindu, so not Buddhist, not Muslim, not Christian. But we do know what she would do because she's already been sworn into various offices, Senate, Vice President. She'll put her hand on a Bible. She'll stick her hand up there. Listen, if you think the Bible's a bunch of fairy tales, you find no moral qualms about putting your hands. It's like if you put your book on your hand on a book of Winnie the Pooh and swore by that. You're not insulting, the Tigger. So no, they have no problem with that. You're making a valid point that she's not, at least historically, traditionally, culturally Christian. But I like taking that angle because I really don't know, Ray. I don't know what religion she is. I don't know. Did she convert to Christianity? She might say that for political convenience, but she certainly wasn't raised Christian. Both of her parents, if I'm not mistaken, are atheists. Most Marxists are atheists. So her mom might have been like traditionally, culturally speaking, a Hindu, but non-practicing. So I don't know if she had to get dressed up and go to like a Diwali celebration when she was in Montreal in high school. But valid points, though. How little we know about this. You know more about the person that is talking to you right now on the radio. And I've only had this job for 8-9 months. Yeah, that's pathetic. That shouldn't be a thing. You should know more about the person that you're about to be asked to vote on to be the most powerful person on planet Earth. All right. Hey, great contributions from you guys. Usually the callers aren't so good. Not beating you up, but you're exceptional today. Coming up next, we're going to talk to my friend Matthew Wilson. He's a political science professor at SMU and get his take on what's going on with Decision 2024. It's the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Dr. Matthew Wilson, professor of political science over at SMU, back on the James Show. And we've been getting prepared for tomorrow's big interview, Matthew Wilson, for CNN is hosting Kamala and Tim Walz. And I was just asking the people listening, what questions would you like asked? And it's a mix. Some of them are personal questions, but a lot of them are very thoughtful policy, albeit political, but, more aimed at her platform. Just offhand, I didn't prep you with this. Is there a question that you would think would be important to ask her at tomorrow's interview?
Well, I would ask first and foremost about the discontinuities between her positions that she took in 2019 when she was running for president and what she says now. That is her backing away from a call for a fracking ban, her backing away from a call for essentially defunding the police. She took much more radical stances in 2019 than she's taking now. And I think the kind of overarching question is, were you making it up and being insincere then, or are you being insincere now? Because these positions just don't match up.
Yeah, we see that quite often in the political sphere, that you get what the candidate really believes in one instance, but when they're on the cusp of an important election, you see them run to the center, and they usually get away with it. So I'm not sure if that would stump her.
Well, yeah. I mean, she presumably has some explanation for why she thought banning fracking was a good idea 5 years ago, but now it's a bad idea, or why she thought 5 years ago we should spend less money on law enforcement, and now she thinks we should spend more money on law enforcement, or changing on the border wall. But making people explain those positions in real time, those flip-flops, rather than just ignoring them, I think can kind of hold their feet to the fire. And look, to be clear, people could do this on some issues with Donald Trump too.
Sure.
But Harris is the one who right now is in the spotlight.
So what kind of economist are you? That's the question I would like for her to be asked. I would call myself a Austrian economist. Mick Jagger, in an interview, he's been asked this before. He said he's a Keynesian economist, Matthew. Her dad was a Marxist. What type of economist is Kamala?
Yeah, it seems like she has kind of soft socialist leanings. I wouldn't say she's a Marxist, but, she's already articulated support basically for price controls to combat, quote unquote, gouging. Most economists will tell you that's a terrible idea that has failed everywhere that it's been tried. So I would want to push her on that. I think she's right now articulating economic policy proposals that are pretty much in line, certainly not with hardcore Marxists, but with those who are fairly far left in the Democratic Party, like Elizabeth Warren. That's where she seems to be coming down right now.
This interview, is CNN really going to ask her hard questions, or are they just going to throw her some softballs and hope that they don't hurt their own team?
I think it'll be somewhere in between. I don't think it'll be a total puff interview, but I don't think they're going to push that hard. And I think in some ways it's helpful for Harris that she has Waltz there, because if things get really sticky or if she starts giving the word salad, which she sometimes does, he's there to jump in and kind of bail her out, or to distract attention, or to cut in and offer his own observations. So I think it actually works to her benefit that this is not one-on-one, but rather that her running mate is there by her side.
But he doesn't need that from her. Why isn't he the top of the ticket then?
Well, that's a very good question.
Right.
We know that she has a track record of sometimes having less than impressive appearances when they're off the cuff. This isn't off the cuff. It's unscripted. It's not, there's not a teleprompter. And so I think it is very beneficial to her that he's there. And, people could ask, why does, she need that sort of insurance policy, but it's something that they've asked for and they're going to get it.
Well, she needs that insurance policy. Also, it's going to be taped and then aired later. And the only reason you would do that, Matthew, is so you could edit it if there's a boo-boo or some awkward gaps, or she wants to start over because she didn't like her first answer. I think they're going to doctor this thing a little bit. And really what that means is the only chance we have to get a glimpse under the surface of Kamala Harris will be the one debate that's going to be had on September 10th.
That's right. Assuming that goes ahead, and I'll believe it when I see it. I mean, I think they are probably going to debate, but there were already rumblings this week of disagreements about the rules, and the Harris campaign asking to kind of renegotiate the rules and terms about whether microphones would be on or not, and that sort of thing. But yes, assuming that debate proceeds as scheduled, that will be probably the single most unscripted, impromptu event that she'll do during the course of the whole campaign.
Matthew Wilson, at SMU, the classes you teach, do they have cool names, or is it like Political Science 1301?
Well, so the class I'm teaching this semester is called Public Opinion and American Politics. So that's not too bad.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, I taught a class this summer called Revolution and Civil Disobedience. That's pretty cool.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. So I don't teach classes, generally speaking, with really boring names. I try not to.
Well, would that be awkward if just some random 47-year-old dude sits in the back of class just to take a look?
You're welcome anytime. I assume that you're speaking of yourself as the random 47-year-old dude.
No, just any random 40. I just happen to be the same age. Yeah.
Yes. So yes, absolutely be welcome.
I would love to sit on some of these classes now, because I took some of these classes back when I was in college, but now knowing the 25 or almost 30 years of world experience I have to go back and sit in those classes again, I think it'd be totally different. I just don't want to be like the creeper. Like, who's that guy with the gray in his beard at the back? Is he just staring at the chicks or whatever? So, all right.
Well, I'm the guy with the gray in his beard at the front of the class, so that would be certainly I would sympathize.
Yeah, well, it's less creepy when you're in the front. Thank you, Matthew Wilson. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, revolution, civil disobedience. That'd be cool. All right, coming up next, we're going to have a talk about fascism, because a lot of people are asking about economic policies, and I keep bringing it up, but. Look, I got audio from 20 years ago from an Austrian refugee who escaped Hitler during World War II. And she's going to tell you what fascism looks like, because she saw it firsthand. And then I want you to just kind of ruminate in your head. Does that sound more like the policies of Team Blue or Team Red? It's coming up in 5 minutes on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.